welcome back. This is my, I don't know, third video or something, but I've only really posted the one to a buddy of mine's Facebook page. One of these days I'll get them all together and throw them up on Facebook. Today I'm going to go do a Boba Fett review with the different Black Series Boba Fett figures. A couple of customs I made as well. And along with Boba comes Jango. Just to kind of go over some of the differences. Now, I have technically both of the Jango Fetts, the gaming grades and then the original release. I've kind of butchered up the original release one. I like the Jango Fett from the gaming grade series better, outside of the backpack. So we'll start with him first. So this is the gaming grades Jango Fett. It's basically the same mold as the original release. It just has the Jango Fett style backpack, as opposed to the Boba Fett style backpack that I believe came with the original one, or at least that's the way it was sold to me. Now this one looks a lot like the Return of the Jedi release of Boba Fett, but you can see there are definitely some paint differences. It's not as worn. The rockets on the deluxe Boba Fett pivot, these don't. They're kind of stuck in place. They'll bend, but they'll fall back. But the biggest giveaway is the deluxe Boba Fett. His rocket removes from the pack, whereas this one is rather firmly attached. It is not a separate piece. He comes with both of his Westguard blasters, tiny little pistols. They're the same for both figures. Again, the figure is basically the same one. It's just the backpack's a little different. And it has one of my favorite features, the removable helmet. I can't help it. I love the removable helmet. He looks really good with his blue flight suit. The silver armor's all shiny. When you take the helmet off, he's got the ball joint for the neck, so he can look around and up and down. So the neck is actually a ball joint for the head, and then there is a vertical rotator for the nodding in his neck. So his neck actually, kind of looks like this, and then there's the piece that the ball joint connects to that sits in the center. He's got the waist hinge. His shoulders are on ball joints, so there's a good range of movement. His shoulder armor doesn't really impede on it. He's got both hinges and ball joints for the shoulders. He's got ball joints for the wrists. The only real thing I've had with his arms is sometimes the hoses, like right here, will come disconnected from the gauntlet. They just kind of snap back in. It happens if you bend the elbow too sharply, it'll pop it out, but it's no biggie. It hasn't torn or broken. You just pop it back in. The hips are on ball joints and hinges, so you can get a good range of motion for kicks. The knees are double jointed, so you can actually fold his knee back up so he can kick his own ass, which is kind of funny. He's got the rocker joints in the ankles that I really have never been a fan of. Then they're on ball joints as well, so there's a good deal of flex there, and you can always make it look like he broke his ankle. I remember watching when I was a kid a Cincinnati Bengals game, and one of their players, and I cannot remember his name, and it bothers me because it was such a horrible accident, and I really shouldn't laugh, but like he had gotten tackled, and when they showed a close-up of him, his foot was just kind of like this. I mean, you could tell it was broken, but I digress. I'm hoping for 45 years later or 40 years later, whatever it is, that he's recovered since. But that is also with the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett, he has little flame attachments. I'm looking for a second set because the ones that plug into the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett will plug into this one for Jango Fett. And as far as I know, this is the backpack that came with the original Jango Fett. I've got the other. He's the only one I did not get in a box. I bought him loose, so I kind of have to go on that person's word. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. Comments, posting. I'm sure you can find me on Facebook. Let's see. So that's the first Boba Fett or Jango Fett. And then, like I said, he has this traditional jetpack where it's all blue and silver, and it matches better. I like the look of the Boba Fett one. It's bigger. It's got that missile. I really kind of enjoy it. Now, I didn't get the San Diego Comic-Con one. Give me something I made to go with them. Should have done this earlier. I'm sorry, I meant to do this earlier. I should have brought it out with it, but I've been getting into 3D printing, and the only real difference between the original Boba Fett and the first release Boba Fett was the original release was the San Diego Comic-Con version. And the San Diego Comic-Con version came with this Boba Fett, same paint detail. I've seen other reviews, people compare them. They're basically the same figure. But in order to justify the price, they had, that really cool black box with the, I think it had the Mandalorian skull logo on it. And he came with a Han Solo and carbonite block. A second. Alright, welcome back. Today I'm going to go through the different Black Series Fett figures. Mostly Boba, but Jango as well, because, he's the clone of, so might as well. And in that respect, we will get him out of the way first. So I had both the Gaming Greats release, which I preferred, and the original release Boba Fett, or Jango Fett, I'm sorry. Now the original release I got loose from somebody, and I've had various discussions with them back and forth, and they assure me that the backpack that came with the original Boba Fett, I'm sorry, the original Jango Fett, is not the same as the Gaming Greats one. The Gaming Greats one I took out of the box myself. This is the backpack that came with it. It's the traditional Jango Fett where it's silver and blue with the shortened missile. Apparently, the original release came with a version of Boba Fett's. It looks like the Boba Fett backpack, the Return of the Jedi release one, but there are a few differences. In the Return of the Jedi, the deluxe Boba Fett, the missile comes off of the back. This one is molded onto it. Boba Fett, the rockets hinge. This one, they are molded in one solid piece. But I kind of prefer this just for the overall look. It's fairly continuing. But the coolest feature is if you can pick up a couple of the flame effects from the deluxe Boba Fett by themselves. I'm sure you can find a customizer somewhere that's willing to sell a couple. You can plug them in to the jets on the backpack and give him a really neat flying effect. I am going to have to try that out with a few other jetpacks like Mando's and see if it does it. I don't believe the Mandalorians will, but Din Djarin's may. I haven't really checked the jetpack out too thoroughly yet. I'm saving that for the review in later when I get around to the next video. I'm going to try and do a couple of them today because, well, it sucks outside. It's cold, it's rainy, and cold being relative, it's like 50 or something. Anyhow, so Jango Fett, both versions have, and I have the other version here, but I kind of butchered him up. I took the head, used it for a custom. I'll show you that later. The body I promised to a buddy of mine, Brent, over at RC Customs. He does really good paint, or what is it? It's Adventure Time RC he does a lot with radio control cars, and he's really kind of helped me out with a lot of my my collecting stuff as well. He does. I'll do a G.I. Joe review with the Storm Shadow custom I made with the articulated icon stuff later, and he kind of gave me some help with the paint and the logo and stuff on that. But you know, he's been a buddy of mine for I don't know, 35 years or so. That's probably an exaggeration. 30 since the mid 90s, like 95, give or take a year. Definitely 94, 96, somewhere right in those 3 years, because it was right around the time we all graduated from high school. Anyhow, Jango Fett has one of my favorite features, the removable helmet. I don't know why I love the removable helmet feature. You know, it's great. It can be just basically anybody in there. I like to swap the helmets between the different lines. Yeah, I've got, you know, a Zartan on my shelf with a Jango Fett helmet sometimes. That's eventually going to change because he's going to paint one of the Jango Fett helmets to look like Boba for me. He's really good at the miniatures and stuff. So anyhow, Jango has the standard Black Series articulation. He's got the hinge at the neck and then the ball joint for the head, so you get a really good range of motion up, down, around. You know, he's looking for dog shit on his shoe, and they really do have a whole lot of, you know, hip and ankle joints, so you can really, you know, look at the bottom of the shoe. He's got ball joints for the shoulders. There's a little gap between the shoulder armor and the bottom of the top of the chest armor. I realize the bottom of the top seems a bit odd, but it works really well because the silver shoulder pad has enough room to slide in, so it doesn't inhibit his range of movement, unlike some things. The Masters Universe Classic line is really bad for having things like hair and armor impeding their range of motion. He has the Bicep Swivels, which, you know, every now and then, depending on how you have it, will look a little odd because it stops lining up correctly. But it's such a small little thing. It's like fingernail thickness off, so you don't really notice it. But it's attached with a pin in there, so it has a full 360-degree range of movement. The hose is actually connected to that lower bicep piece rather than the upper, so you can get a full circle without it tearing the hoses out. There's a ball joint just below that at the top of the, or the bottom of the shoulder, the top of the forearm. So you get a really good range of motion from the ball joint at the shoulder, but you also can get the up-down motion on the arm. And then he has a ball joint and a hinge, although there the armor kind of impedes it. It does not give it quite the full flex of the wrist, but it's there. You can move it. It's certainly not going to break it. The only problem I have is every once in a while, when you put it in a shooting or an aiming pose, this lower hose here comes loose, and it's not broken. You just straighten the arm out, and you can just pop it back into that little slot there, and it's as good as new. I think they did that so it didn't tear over time. I like to believe that they put that much thought into it. And probably not. It may just be a happy coincidence. Now, he's got a ball joint for his waist, or pin for his waist, so there's a little flex for the front and back, but you can get a full 360 turn. The belt is a whole separate sculpt. The belt and the holsters with the leg wrappings, so it stays nicely. It doesn't really impede anything. He gets a good range of movement. Backwards, the flat part of his leg doesn't go through the butt cheek on his armor, so he doesn't have much of a back kick. But again, they're hinged and ball jointed, so you can get a pretty good range of motion. He's got the ankle rockers that I've never really been a big fan of. I kind of believe those are best left for, you know, ninjas and acrobats, because most people aren't doing trying to kick somebody in their head. Especially somebody like, you know, actually a Mandalorian probably would. Everything's a weapon, blah, blah, blah. He comes with his two Westar blasters. Um, they're mostly silver. They have the gray handles. They're kind of nice. I've compared them with the other. I don't have the other body with me right now. It's in one of my other boxes. I keep most of my stuff for the current series that I collect in boxes because I like to do different things with them. I'll take them out. I'll mess with them. You know, set them different poses. I would eventually like to get something similar to Robot Chicken up, but yeah, I'm having a problem coming up with storylines. His knees are double jointed, so you can, with the ball joint and the ankle in his, or the ball joint and the hinge in his ankle, you can make him kick his own ass, which is kind of funny. Makes me laugh. Going down to the ankle, it does have the rocker and the ball joint, the hinge, so you have a pretty good range of motion. I had to redo this because my wife was talking through the last one, so I had to redo the video. But I made a really poor joke about a broken ankle I saw one time. But I mean, to be fair, you could make it look like his ankle was broken. It's not a problem. Yeah, so I would go with the gaming grades Boba or Jango Fett. I just, for whatever reason, I like it better. The paint is a little bit on the flight seat is a little bit more purplish, so it gives a darker blue than the slightly lighter blue on the original release. I like it better, but it's a very minor aesthetic. Honestly, depend. Your biggest debate as to which one you go with should be, is the overall color a dark enough difference to matter, and which backpack do you prefer? Like I said, I like the Boba Fett one. So, next we have Boba Fett. Now this is the original Black Series retail release. It's the same one as the original release, which was the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive back in 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. And he came with the figure is the same. You can look up the reviews on YouTube. I'm not spending $300 on something that I already have three of just to review it. If I come across one cheap, great, I'll get it. It's Boba Fett. I have 1,000 things that are Boba Fett related. It's my favorite Star Wars character. So, but I'm not going to go out of my way to get it right now. The only real difference was he came with an additional accessory. He came with Han Solo and Carbonite. Now, they recently released him, I think last year, on the Empire Strikes Back packaging, and I have a couple of the Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett's as well that I've used for customs. When you compare them side by side, they are the same figure. I'll get to the custom here in a minute, but as you look, you can see that they are indeed the same figure. I pulled this one off of an Empire Strikes Back card. I know because of the helmet, because I did a head swap with the original release Jango Fett from earlier that I was talking about. But I did that because I wanted a Boba Fett with a removable helmet. I don't necessarily want him to go with the bald, scarred up look of the Mandalorian one. I was going more for a younger Boba Fett. I'm still trying to decide whether I need to try and get a different head with like the Clone Wars era hair, but I like to believe he kept his hair shorter, kind of like his father. So this is theoretically the Empire Strikes Back paint job. It's pretty good. I mean, there is a lot of green. There really is a lot of green. But green and gray are his primary colors, so it's understandable. They all share the same articulation. He does have a different chest mold because of the armor. You can tell clearly that it's different. He has a different head mold. Although the head is, because it's one solid piece. I have a couple extra heads around. because I've made, the customs I made are head swaps. So this one has, a couple of pouches up front. They're big cargo pouches, and they're up front. And then on the side, he has a holster with a blaster, pistol sized, as opposed to the E11 rifle that everybody's seen him carry. He has the cloth cape, which is okay. It comes pre-folded. I've never really taken it out and tried to unfold it. At some point, I may get around to trying to get one of these, yet another one, and taking the body part, putting the cloth cape on a Return of the Jedi body, because I do like the cloth cape, sort of. Soft goods are never really one of my favorite things outside of like Jedi. But Boba Fett I would make an exception for, and Darth Vader does fall under Jedi in case you're curious. But most of the rest have like armor and flight suits, and they're not supposed to be loose and billowy and stuff. Princess Leia, the A New Hope one with the white dress, I could accept that as having soft goods as well. But generally, I hear soft goods and I don't like them overall. I would prefer them sculpted in plastic. And I'll get to that again when I get to the Return of the Jedi Deluxe Boba Fett. But he has the same backpack or actually Jango Fett's original came with the same backpack as Boba Fett. Missiles there, the rockets don't hinge. His Blastech EE11 blaster has some really nice detailing on the stock. It fits really well. His hands are sculpted a bit odd, so that he can do that whole iconic where he's holding it, looking sideways, kind of like he's on guard duty. And fortunately, these fingers are flexible enough that you can kind of bend them, but this is basically the look everybody sees him in. He's got the same articulation, the ball joint and stuff. The Mythosaur emblem on his shoulder is really well detailed. He's got all kinds of little scoring and paint rubs and stuff on his armor. It looks really beaten and detailed. They're dents. He's got that iconic dent at the top of his helmet that I believe he got from Cad Bane in the Clone Wars. They finally explained that last year. You can see the knee dart launchers are really well sculpted. Which reminds me, one of these days I'll get around to doing a review of the Bandai 1/12 scale to 6-inch scale Boba Fett model. I really am enjoying the Bandai model kits. They're easy to snap together. The Boba Fett helmet, Boba Fett doesn't really require much painting in the model kit. Oh, you know what? I'll get to that when I get to the model kit. Anyhow, so he just comes with the jetpack and the rifle and the pistol. Then shortly thereafter, they did a Walgreens exclusive prototype Boba Fett. And for those of you that are familiar with the prototype Boba Fett, you know that this is not the prototype Boba Fett. It is just a white painted version of Boba Fett. If it were the prototype, they would have had to do a new head sculpt because he had kind of a visor. I'm trying to remember which of the clone troopers had it, but it's also sort of reminiscent of the Biker Scouts, the way they had that little visor thing. The Hoth snow troopers kind of look like it around the eyes as well. This is just a straight repaint of the original Boba Fett. They did his cape in white instead of the tan, instead of the brown stripe, it has a gray stripe. Again, the paint is what keeps it folded because the paint's fairly stiff. You could probably flatten it out. There are minimal paint apps on this. There is no Mythosaur logo. The rocket's painted. There's a little bit of silver on the gauntlets, silver on the knee launchers, the black T-visor, black bars. The missile and exhaust on his jetpacks are black. I am not entirely sure if this is intentional or not, but one side is painted and a bit bigger. I mean, they all have that, but this one, they're both painted silver on the original. This one, the one side's painted with a black tip, the other's not painted at all. The tools in his shin pockets are painted silver, which I'm actually impressed with. I didn't expect to see quite this many paint apps. But when you get to the gear, it's just the same rifle, the detailing's there, but it's not painted. Even the blaster, solid black piece. Same one. Side by side, they look, physically the same. It's just the paint colors aren't there. Instead of brown and silver, it's solid black. I got this because it's Boba Fett. I have 9 million Boba Fett things. When I was really young, I don't know, 7 or 8. Wasn't really into Star Wars. Really into He-Man. But my dad got me a Boba Fett one year for I don't know, birthday or. It wasn't a birthday. It was a religious holiday. I was Catholic, so it was my first communion. Why he decided Boba Fett fit me. But honestly, that's why Boba Fett is my favorite Star Wars character. Before that, it was Luke Skywalker. And I know most people are like Luke, Han, or Vader. There are other people that will just randomly like bizarre ones. And at that point, I wanted to like somebody that not everybody else liked. So I picked Boba Fett because, I'd just gotten him from my dad. And I thought it looked really cool. I loved the shot of him on the Return of the Jedi card where he's standing there on the skiff barge, but it's just, an upper chest shot. So I know where it's from the movie. I've seen it 100,000 times, but anyway, I did make this for the original Boba Fett. I have a 3D printer, and I'm pretty happy with the quality of it overall. I still have some tweaking with the printer to do, and there's a lot I've still got to learn about that, but I just made a little stand-up Han Solo and Carbonite to kind of go along with Boba Fett, just because. But one of the problems with my printer that I'm having is it didn't print correctly on the bottom, so it's got that whole honeycomb infill. Anyhow, that's just so I have something to post next to one of 75 Boba Fetts. The last one is the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. So the first thing you'll notice is he's a much darker color, darker green than the Empire Strikes Back. Also, the next thing you're liable to notice is the cape is rubber or plastic instead of cloth. Now, this looks better because it's got all these little burn holes and tears and stuff in it from the various combat he's seen. They updated all the paint detailing. It's really good. They remolded the gauntlet. The pouches are now on the side instead of the front. So he's got a bunch of little pouches here, kind of like Jango, where they were missing on the original release. He's got the toe spikes and the painted knee darts. 98% of this figure is the same as all the others. They redid the head, they redid the belt, they redid the gauntlets, because this one has 3 hoses on the the right gauntlet. This one has 1 to power the flamethrower. This is to power, theoretically, his flamethrower, but when they sculpted it, they have this overhang here on the left gauntlet, and it comes with this little flame accessory, so you can just kind of pop it on. You pop it on upside down to get him to shoot up, or you can pop it on regularly so that it shoots out, but it gives it a really nice flame effect. The backpack, as I mentioned earlier, is the missile's removable, the rockets hinge, and they have the little flame effects that you can put in, so that the rocket can fly. I'm looking forward to the Cobb Vanth figure coming out later this year, along with the Mandalorian Boba Fett. With the helmet, the easiest way to tell this is resculpted is now the rangefinder moves. Give me a second. It takes me a minute to line these up. You got to get the pin lined up, and then you have to get the 2 shoulder pegs, shoulder tabs lined up to get it to sit just right. But now the rangefinder moves, so you can, have him kind of look up sort of the range of articulation isn't as good as it used to be. Um, the neck kind of stops there. I may look into trying to swap the head out with something else later to see, because I got a couple of plans for a custom Return of the Jedi Boba Fett body that I would like to try. Anyhow, he has not only his Blast Tech E11 blaster, much better painted and sculpted, and it's actually several shades of brown and black. Um, but he comes with a second one. Now, if you remember in Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker cut it in half. That's what that yellow line in it is. And it actually pulls apart. It's got a little pin to replace, or to reshow, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, I feel stupid. Recreate, that's it. Recreate that where he's, trying to capture Luke Skywalker. His last accessory is, he's got this cuff that attaches to his arm. I usually put it on the right to kind of balance it out, but I suppose you could use either the right or the left cuff. It's colored the same as the gauntlet, so it blends in, but it has a little cord, so you can have that dart shoot out, like in Return of the Jedi, where he was trying to capture Luke on Jabba's sail barge. I guess I didn't get that backpack in quite right. Oh, there it goes. Cape over it. I'm not 100% sure, but I am about 99% sure that little tip looks like it was based off of Kamino's saber dart, which is kind of cool. But it's just basically meant to give it a little weight so it can, fly out and wrap around somebody. It doesn't wrap great. You'll get one or two. You're not going to get 15 wraps like Luke had, but it's a neat little callback. And out of all of the Boba Fett figures, before I started playing with them, this one is far and away my favorite. Both the paint detail being upgraded. Technically, it's a deluxe figure, so you would expect that. Also, the extra accessories. But it is far and away my favorite version of the Boba Fett that they've released so far. I'm hoping eventually they'll release a Clone Wars era one and an Attack of the Clones one. Daniel Logan should really get a figure. I mean, he was the original Boba Fett, but not the original Boba Fett, if you know what I mean. The last thing I have had this this crossover idea for years in my head, but I wanted a Bugs Bunny Boba Fett, so I bought a Tycho Bugs Bunny figure, cut the head off with a pair of wire cutters, drilled it out, put it on the ball joint of the head. Now the custom head swap I did with Jango and Boba Fett, I think the neck makes the head sit a little high. I'm trying to figure something out to make that not so pronounced, but it kind of works for Bugs here. It took me a while to get the head drilled out enough, and I accidentally damaged the cheek here a little bit, scraped some of the paint off. I'm going to have to get that repainted at some point. But I always wanted a crossover Bugs Bunny Boba Fett. I couldn't tell you why Bugs Bunny strikes me as Boba Fett as opposed to like Luke Skywalker or Han Solo. I think technically Han Solo would be the better Bugs Bunny, but Luke is more the primary character in the original trilogies. I just wanted Boba Fett. I always had this picture of him just kind of, standing here looking off to the side or looking over his shoulder with that Bugs Bunny smirk. Maybe talking crap to Palpatine. And I normally have him posed on my custom shelf. I did not do anything with the original Boba Fett head that came off of it, because I'm not sure how I would get it to do it. So basically what I do is I kind of, he's got the wrist articulation that we were talking about earlier, so I basically have him stand there like this. It's going to take me a minute to get him back in the pose. Come on, stupid. And then he just sits there and kind of cradles the helmet in his arm. Yeah. It's not going to do it. Of course it's not going to do it. I should have done this first so I had time to pose it. But he basically stands there like that on my shelf in front of my Mega Constructs Castle Grayskull. Anyhow, that's my Boba Fett video. I'm sure we'll revisit both Boba Fett as Black Series and Boba Fett in general several more times. You know, when it's one of my favorite characters in a series, you'll see him here and there. Alright, well, you all have a good day. Oh, hit like and subscribe, please. I would appreciate it.